Welcome back to the shop. So a couple of weeks ago, a buddy of mine, Jeff Mann, brought in a knife that he needed me to make a sheath for. It was a custom knife that a guy wanted. It's a Damascus 3 3/4 inch blade. It's right at 8 inches overall, but he wanted a scalp sheath with this particular knife, which is one of my favorite sheaths to build and to use. So the only issue was I only had the knife, I didn't have a handle. So I went through the whole process, filmed it to be able to show what it takes to build a custom knife sheath, and then waited till he had the handle ready so that I could complete the video. And I needed to be able to make sure that the knife fit like I designed it to. So which I think it turned out great. So I'll show some close-up of the knives in a minute, but for now, let's walk through the process. Let me show you what it takes to build a custom knife sheath. And if I can do it, anybody can do it, I promise. So let's take a look. All right, so the first thing I need to do is scan the knife in. I just scan it straight to my computer, and then I'll save it as a PDF. Then I'll use that to draw out the sheath. So once I've got it scanned in, I use Corel Draw, and saving it as a PDF, I have it as the actual size of the knife itself. So here all I'm doing is drawing the knife out on Corel, just so I can then use that to get my measurements that I need for the sheath. So yes, I am kind of fast, but I'm not that fast. This video is sped up. This part of the video is sped up a little bit. So right now I'm building the welt. In the welt, you want it less than 1/10 of an inch from the blade. The welt is what protects the knife blade from cutting into the leather. So here I'm building the inner part of the welt, and the outer part of the welt will actually be the outer part of the sheath. So I'm going to measure that right at 1/2 inch away from the inner part. And woo, I am fast. Wow. So now I'll take those measurements and just roughly draw out exactly what I need. Then I go back and smooth it out later. I skipped through part of it. This video would take forever. Now what I'm going to do is separate the welt, but keep the outside so I can use it as the outside of my sheath. And I like to make them different colors so I can kind of have a visual, and it helps me keep everything in line. Now one thing I realized at this stage was my welt needed to be actually longer because the knife will be sliding into the sheath because of the style sheath that it is, the scalp sheath. So that's something I didn't think about originally, but it had been a while since I'd done that. So now I'm making the belt loop. Now I'm making it a little bit longer than necessary just in case I can always go back and cut. Now this is where I made one critical mistake, and that was because it had been a little while since I'd done any of that. But when I made a dual copy of the outside of the sheath, I should have flipped it because it would want to be on the back and want to be on the front. But I'll go back and do that later. I don't think it's on the video, but just so you know. So now I'm in the software that the laser uses. It's called RD Works. It's horrible software, but I've learned how to get around it and do most everything in Corel first. So I deleted the belt loop, and I'm sending it straight to the laser. See, that leather is 8 to 10 ounces. The belt loop will be about 5 ounces. So that's why I'm cutting them out separate. So I laser engraved the logo, and I'm just using the laser to cut out the rough pattern. I'll have to clean them up there, as you see, because it does make a little bit of a mess. But it saves some time. I can cut them by hand, but since I've got to do the logo anyway, I might as well go ahead and use it. So first step is to test fit. So I'm just going to take some clips to kind of hold them together, because I just want to make sure that the knife fits in there snug and that there's not a lot of playroom. It's okay if there's room front back because of the style sheath it is. The handle's going to take up some space, but it's good to make sure before you go any further. So here I am skiving both sides of the leather. This just helps the knife. It's for appearance, but also helps the knife slide in and out. Now this one I'm skiving one side, the back side, a little bit thinner along the welt, just so it's not so thick. Since it's going to ride on the back of your belt, you don't want a real thick leather digging into your backside, so lack of a better word. So now I'm ready to glue it together. I use contact cement for this because even if the stitching was to fail, you could almost use it without stitching with that contact cement. It's amazing stuff. I've used it for years and I've never had any issues or anything come back because of it. Sometimes I even do hats now without stitching. I mean, it works that well. So now I'm just placing it together. You got to be really careful to line up the sides, because if you don't, it's just more work you've got to do at the end. So by taking your time now to do that, it's going to help tremendously. And then again, I'll test fit the knife one more time just to make sure. You can. I will probably end up doing this 5 or 6 times, all the way up until it ships out the door. Because if there's a problem, I want to know about it. So here I am going to go ahead and work on the edges since I've got it where I want it. I have found that it's easier to do this before you sew it, because when you go to mark your sewing lines, you have a smooth, even surface to work with. And so it's just sort of doing that step a little bit sooner. I'll have to hit it one more time to finish it, but this helps a lot. And again, I'm just kind of skiving along the edges, okay, yeah, here's the part that I needed to bring up. As you can see, that I also forgot one more step, which I had to go ahead and sew one side of the leather together before I put the loop on. So that would make more sense if you could see the sheath, but I got left out of the video, but I wanted to point it out. So I'm still skiving the edges down, and that part was really just for appearance, but it makes a big difference. So now I decided I didn't like the back side of the leather not being finished, and there was some spots that I just wasn't totally happy with, so it was just easier to go ahead and re-dye it black. The leather is drum dyed, but this makes it a lot simpler. And I did remember to go back and put on my gloves. You can see there where I had already glued the belt loop on once before I realized I had to take it apart and sew that one section. It's been a while for me since I've done a true custom sheath. I used to do them in my sleep, but the older we get, the harder it is. So right here, I'm going to dye both sides, and I really want to dye that back side. It's a small thing. Most people won't notice, but to me, if you're going to do it, let's go ahead and do it right. So that's what I chose to do. All right, so here I'm going to go ahead and start burnishing the edges. Burnishing the edges is what makes it smooth and kind of combines it all together. It really gives it more of a finished look. So much better than just raw edges. In the beginning, I didn't take the time to do this, but once you did, you noticed the difference. There is no going back. And as you can see, I need to reorganize my shop a little bit. It looks a little messy back there, but that's okay. I'm going to burnish the edges using a piece of wood, and I put a little, I can't believe I forgot the name, and I should edit it out, but I'm not going to, but it's beeswax. It's beeswax. I like to put a little beeswax. That just helps seal in the burnish and gives it a nice, slightly polished look. I'm not going for a glossy look. I could, but that's not really my style. All right, so now I'm going to glue the belt loop on for the second time. First, the part that I'd already sewn together, the section, and you put both sides together, and I'm not sure if it's going to show here, but I like to let it dry for a few minutes before I put them together. But sometimes if you need to move it, and I think I didn't hear because I wasn't sure on the placement, because by not letting it dry all the way, you do have the option of moving it a little bit, but once it's stuck, it is stuck. Then I like to put a few clips and just let it sit there for a few minutes. All right, now it's time for the sewing. Now this is, because I'm using a Cobra Class 4 sewing machine, I could do this by hand. I have done hundreds by hand, if not maybe thousands. I don't want to overspeak, but I've done a bunch of them sewing by hand, and I do enjoy that. But it's hard to pass up when you have access to a sewing machine to just go ahead and knock this out in about a minute and a half. I did skip over some parts of the video, and I'm showing the slow parts where I have to really be careful where I stop and start, but it did not take that long. And then I'm literally just, after I do my back stitching, I'm just cutting the stitches, and then I'll burn them with a lighter just to sort of keep them from fraying or coming loose. But again, I've never had a single problem with that, and all of them that I've done with any of it coming loose. Sewing it with the sewing machine is just as strong as hand sewing, but I do get the appeal of hand sewing, and like I said, I still enjoy it. So here, one thing about the sewing machine, it has a walking foot, and that walking foot will put a little bit of an indent, especially on thicker leather. So the harder it has to push to hold it down, the deeper the indent. I just smooth it out with a modeling spoon. And at this stage, I'm taking a 1.5 inch strap, I'm putting it through the belt loop, and what I'm doing is really defining, I'm trying to create some memory in that leather where your belt goes. Now it's a touch, not everybody does this, and you know, it's personal preference, but to me, that's paying attention to detail and doing it right. So it's something I do for all of mine that leave the shop. Whether it helps, I don't know, but it surely looks good, and to me it makes a difference. So that's the sheath. So right here I am just fitting it a few times before I give it back to my buddy Jeff. Alright, so this is the finished knife. When I got it back from Jeff, I got a good little picture of it, and then I wanted to show how the sheath works. So as you can see, you can just put it in the small of your back, take it out. It does help to have two hands putting it back in, but what a beautiful knife it is. And this is how it turned out. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.